What is going on, college basketball fans? Welcome back to another video, and today we have our updated Bracketology Power 35 rankings that we do every single Monday here on the channel. Not too many changes because it was the week of Christmas, so most of these teams didn't even play a game, but we did have some games, and we do have some changes, so we do have the updated version here. Ton of good games upcoming here, heading into the new year, heading into conference play, so be on the lookout for next week's rankings as well. Should be a lot more changes, but yeah, guys, let's get right into it. All right, guys, the Week 9 Bracketology Power 35 rankings, here they are. And as you can see, we're still going to talk about it, but it's probably going to be a shorter video than my usual rankings just because the top 20 teams out of 35 did not move at all. They either did not play a game or they played a lesser opponent and just blew them out, and it just wasn't enough to really move them up or down. So really the top 20 stays the same, but we're still going to talk about some of these teams. I do want to say before we start breaking this down though, make sure you guys get your hot takes in on the community post. I will be posting that video tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. And if you guys want a chance for your hot take to be in the video, make sure you guys go to the community tab and post your hot takes in that post. So let's get into it. Auburn's still a #1 team. You guys know how I feel about Auburn. I think they're the best team in the country, and they have been my #1 since I believe week 2, and we are at week 9 now. So even whenever they did lose, I kept them at #1, and they've stayed there ever since. #2, we do have Tennessee, undefeated, looking really good. They did have a scare a little bit against Middle Tennessee. I can't remember if that was this week or last week, but they were able to pull away there in the end and stay undefeated. Iowa State, I think Iowa State is easily a top 5 team in the country. They've looked really good. They have a really good resume. They pass all the tests. They're #3. #4, we do have Florida. Florida's undefeated. They've had a few tests that they have actually, me included, I thought that they were going to lose one of these games early where they were tested when they finally started playing good teams, but they have survived and looked really good doing it. So Florida looking good. Cannot wait to see them get into SEC play because SEC is so good. It's stacked, looking like one of the best conferences, one of the best leagues, or one of the best years a league has ever had, which is insane. Duke at #5, staying there, but I do want to talk about #6 and #7, Oklahoma and Alabama, because they do play each other this week, and I expect Alabama to win that game. I believe it is a home game for Alabama, so I think they're going to welcome Oklahoma into the SEC and maybe hand them their first loss, but I'm interested to see how Oklahoma does play in that game, because if they don't lose by too much, or maybe they'll actually win. If they do win, they could jump all the way, definitely into the top 5, but if they keep it close, they might still stay in the top 10. So that's going to be very interesting between those two teams there. But I do expect Alabama to win that one at home. And I think Alabama has a better overall roster than Oklahoma. But Oklahoma is still undefeated. Marquette at #8. Really like Marquette. They look like the best team in the Big East. Still in the top 10. Oregon still in the top 10. They have really good wins. Still only one loss on the season. Their best win being against #7 Alabama in overtime. Super fun game. That was one of my favorite games I've watched so far this year. Texas A&M at #10 still look really good. They have a really underrated resume heading into SEC. I'm really excited to see what they can do, and that goes for pretty much every SEC team. It's going to be very interesting. Kansas at #11 still. Kentucky at #12. Not much going on with these teams this week. Drake at #13. They did beat Kansas State, and I believe they played the other day and won as well. But they're heading into Missouri Valley Conference play undefeated, and they have a chance to go undefeated on the year. Their best competition is going to be Bradley and then maybe Indiana State. Still looking semi-decent, so I expect maybe Bradley to take them down this year at some point, but Drake is looking like a force right now for sure. #14, Michigan State. #15, UConn. UConn's been really hot ever since the Maui Invitational. They have not lost, and they've played some pretty good teams in that run as well, including a couple of league games already. I believe they're 2-0 in the Big East against Xavier and Butler. Number 16, we do have Vandy. I've seen a few guys last week saying Vanderbilt's too high. They haven't really played anybody that good, and their only loss is to Drake. I do understand that. I do think that I am maybe overrating them a little bit. But until they give me a reason to drop them down, I'm gonna keep them I'm gonna let them try to prove themselves here. They play in the hardest conference in college basketball, so they're gonna get tested really soon. If they go out and lose their first SEC game, then yeah, they're gonna fall pretty far because they don't really have any proven wins that are that great. So I hear you guys on that, and I do kind of agree with you guys as well. But I am going to let them prove it before I drop them any more than 16. Number 17, we do have Maryland still. I'm pretty high on Maryland, and I have been seeing a few of you guys in my last video where I filled out Joe Lenardi's Bracketology. I asked you guys to drop your Final Fours. I've seen a few of you guys having Maryland in your Final Fours, so that was really interesting to me, and I really do like that pick as kind of a sleeper pick to make the Final Fours. So that would be a really awesome run to see. Georgia at number 18, another team that, yeah, they do have a couple of proven wins, one against St. John's, but nothing too great. They are in the top 20. They're another team that needs to be tested heading into the SEC. They were losing, I believe, to South Carolina State, which is pretty rough last week. They were losing by more than 10 at halftime. They came back and won that game. That could have been one of our biggest fallers this week if they didn't come back. But Mike White's doing a really good job there as the coach for Georgia, and I expect them to be in the tournament this year, even if they do fall off a little bit when they get to league play. Mississippi State, another team that I really want to see play in SEC play. There's so many good SEC teams this year. I expect at least 12 or 13 of them to make the tournament, which is an insane amount of teams to make the tournament from one conference, but Mississippi State's really good, and they're coming off I believe their last game was against Memphis, where they beat them on the road, so that was a really good win for them. Mississippi State looking really good. Dayton didn't play this past week. They're coming off that one loss there to Cincinnati, but I still think they're one of the better mid-majors in the country. Illinois actually is our first mover this week, jumping up 5 spots into the top 25 at 21. They didn't do too much spectacular this week, but a few teams ahead of them did lose, and I felt like I was already underrating them a little bit, so that is kind of the main reason why they are moving up. They have been pretty impressive to me this year, and look like they have really, really good point guard play this year, and really good just guard play in general. UCLA jumping up 12 spots, our biggest jumper this week, because they did beat Gonzaga. Gonzaga-UCLA was the biggest game that we had of this dead week kind of that we had in college basketball because of Christmas and everything. So that was our biggest game, and UCLA won. They beat Gonzaga. Gonzaga's kind of, falling off hard right now, so we'll see if they'll be able to bounce back. But UCLA back into the top 25 here at 22. One of the best defenses in the Power 5, in my opinion. St. John's here, jumping up 1 spot. They're here at number 23. Number 24, we got Cincinnati also jumping up 1 spot. I don't think Cincinnati had a game this week either, but they did beat Dayton recently. Some teams ahead of them lost, so they're jumping up 1 spot from 25 to 24. And Cincinnati's got a game against Kansas State, Kansas State looking like they're probably going to be one of the bottom 4 or 5 teams in the Big 12 this year, surprisingly. But Cincinnati has to play them on the road. They got to get that one done. We've seen they've struggled against a team on the road like Villanova earlier this year. And I believe Kansas State's actually the favorite in that game by like 3 points. I was looking at the spreads earlier today for the Monday night games, and yeah, so look out, Cincinnati. By the time you guys are seeing this video, Cincinnati could have lost to Kansas State. I think they're going to get it done on the road. Kansas State hasn't been that great, but Kansas State could for sure win that game. Memphis at number 25, jumping back into the top 25. They lost to Mississippi State, but they did beat the other Mississippi team in Ole Miss, and they looked really good in that game. That was probably one of their better games that they've had this year, and maybe their best game that they've had since beating UConn. I know they've had other really good games, like in the Maui Invitational against Michigan State, and they had another good game against Virginia where they looked really good. But and against Clemson. They looked really good. They played a lot of top-level games this year, and that one against Ole Miss was really good. So they're back into the top 25 here at number 25. Number 26, we do have Houston. They are jumping up one spot. Houston just, they've lost all their bigger games this year, but they have went to overtime with teams like San Diego State and Alabama, which was, they were in those games for sure. And they didn't lose by too much against teams like Auburn. So I still think Houston's a really good team. I think they're a top 5 for sure team, and they could be a top 3 team in the Big 12 by the end of the year. But they're definitely a top 5 team in that league, and they're here at number 26. Number 27, we got Gonzaga dropping 6 spots. I kind of wanted to drop them more, I'm not going to lie, but they did beat the 2 teams that are below them. So I had to keep them here at 27 and dropping 6 spots for losing to a really good UCLA team. But they've lost a lot recently, all to good teams, but I really wanted to drop Gonzaga further, but I just couldn't because teams like San Diego State also lost this week to Utah State. They lost, in a very close one, 1-point game, huge 3 at the end there for Utah State. That was an excellent game. I think those are the 2 top Mountain West teams this year. And San Diego State dropping 6 spots. They did lose. So, and Gonzaga beat San Diego State in San Diego earlier this year. I felt like both of them dropping 6 spots pretty fair here. Also, because Gonzaga did, it wouldn't bother me so much to put Baylor above Gonzaga if it was a close game, but because Gonzaga destroyed Baylor, there's no way I could have Baylor ahead of Gonzaga. So if Gonzaga was going to fall more, Baylor was going to have to fall more just on default. But Baylor's here at number 29, and Baylor did beat Arkansas. So Baylor is ahead of Arkansas there at number 30. Arkansas is a team that is going to have to get some pretty decent wins in the SEC if they are going to want to make the tournament or get a decent seed. They definitely have some work to do. Michigan here at number 31. No movement for them. They did get a really good win where they blew out a team. I'm trying to remember who it was, but they looked really good, and I think Michigan is probably a team that is going to rise pretty soon. I think they are a team that could win the Big Ten Conference this year or compete for it. But they're here at number 31. 32, we got Wisconsin, kind of the same thing. Michigan had the head-to-head over Wisconsin already this year in a league game. Pitt at 33, Wisconsin has the head-to-head over them. And number 34, jumping up 8 spots from our watch list into the Power 35. They're getting ranked this week. That's right, Utah State. Utah State only 1 loss on the season. It was a bad loss, but they picked up a couple of really good wins, including this past week against San Diego State. Those were the 2 biggest games of the week, were UCLA Gonzaga and San Diego State versus Utah State. 2 West Coast games, really entertaining and really good games. Utah State, I kind of wanted to put them above San Diego State, but I feel like because it was such a close game, it was a 1-point game at the end, and because San Diego State has played so many good teams this year and have really good wins, I felt like it was okay to keep San Diego State above Utah State for now. But we'll see. If Utah State keeps winning, there will be a conversation to be had for Utah State to jump over San Diego State here in the future. They could jump a lot as long as they keep winning. And then we got WVU as our last team ranked here at number 35, staying put exactly where they were last week. They got a big one tomorrow on New Year's Eve against Kansas. So that is going to be a big one. We'll see if West Virginia can hang in there with the Jayhawks, and that is the Power 35. Not too much movement. The top 20 stay the same. 21 through 30, a good amount of shifts. A few teams falling completely out of their rankings. As far as our watch list, some teams that we've seen on there last week because they haven't got another opportunity to play yet. North Carolina, Missouri, Clemson, Purdue, Ole Miss, who fell out of the rankings after getting beat pretty bad by Memphis. UC San Diego, looking like a really good mid-major, same with Liberty. And Northwestern, I've seen some Northwestern fans comment on my video, like, where they at? I don't think that they deserve to be ranked just yet, but we'll see how they do here whenever they play a few more Big Ten games. I know they have a big win against Illinois this year. That was an awesome game. I believe it actually went to overtime, and they're playing really well. I think Northwestern is a tournament team, but we'll see how they start here the next few games. They could definitely get ranked next week. And then we got Ohio State also here on the list, who is coming off of a big win over Kentucky. So let me know what you guys think about these rankings down below in the comment section. Like I said, not much changes this week, but I expect there to be a lot of changes next Monday because there are a lot of really good games because it's no longer Christmas. College hasn't started back up yet, so a lot of these teams are playing twice this week. So there's going to be some good games. And yeah, guys, let me know what you guys think. Who should be higher? Who should be lower? Who got snubbed? Subscribe if you guys are new, and thank you so much for watching.